Hey guys, Jack here bringing you some exciting Battlefield news. I'm sure most of you heard this by now, but Battlefield 4 has been confirmed by EA. If you pre-order Medal of Honor Warfighter, you get access to the Battlefield 4 beta. I haven't seen any solid details myself about the release date, but there are rumours going around that suggest that the Battlefield 4 beta will begin in fall 2013. So what does all this mean, and what do I and you guys think about this? Well, I think we have to look at this rationally and objectively and not jump to any conclusions because there are no solid details yet. I can see this being an extremely good thing for Battlefield or a bad thing, but we don't have any information yet. So I'll start off with a positive outlook on the Battlefield 4 announcement, and I've tried to think of all the good things that could come of this. First off, we don't know how long Battlefield 4 has been in development. So to some people it might seem like DICE and EA are trying to just pump out another flagship Battlefield game as fast as possible for a quick sale. But you just don't know if that's the case. Battlefield 4 development could have started halfway through Battlefield 3 development. You just don't know. So it's unfair to immediately jump to the conclusion that these games are being rushed. From my workings, we're looking at about a 2 to 3 year development cycle here, which isn't necessarily a bad thing when you think of modern A-grade video game development cycles. Let's look at some modern Battlefield games as examples. So we have Battlefield Bad Company, released in 2008. DICE also released Mirror's Edge in 2008, so they put out two pretty good games in 2008 there. Battlefield Bad Company 2, released in March 2010. So we've got sort of a 2 year gap there. Battlefield 3, of course, released in October 2011. So we're looking at like a year and a half gap there. But it's not really a year and a half between Bad Company 2 and Battlefield 3. That isn't how long they've taken to make the game. Battlefield 3 was probably in development like 3 to 4 years ago. I think people forget that just because a company hasn't announced something doesn't mean that they're not working on it in the background. Personally, I think Battlefield 3 development started around the same time as Battlefield Bad Company 2. The first sort of official confirmation we had that Battlefield 3 was in development was in June 2009, and this was sort of let slip by an Electronic Arts employee called John Pleasance. And he said, "I've had the luxury of looking at Battlefield 3 over at DICE in Sweden and was highly impressed by the way the team is working on that product. Of course, that's not coming out in this fiscal year, but that is a product that is looking very good." So he said that in June 2009. And by the sounds of what he's saying, they had a pretty good game in place there already that he'd got to experience and see. So potentially Battlefield 3 started development in January, February 2009, something like that maybe. You just don't know. So how does that relate to Battlefield 4? Well, I think production on Battlefield 4 started in fall 2010 when DICE and EA had a good idea of what Battlefield 3 was going to look like, how it would play, and the potential for expansion and innovation. So if we make the assumption that development of Battlefield 4 began in fall 2010, and there are rumours that it's going to be released in fall, maybe winter 2013, then we're looking at a 3 year development cycle, possibly a bit longer than that. And 3 years is a long time. It's a long enough time to make a very good Battlefield game as well. So to those people that think DICE might be rushing this, then you could potentially be wrong. They've probably been working on it a long time. They've got the engine in place now, they've done the hard work, and now they can sort of go to town and build the game that they want to build. In relation to this, and to sort of back that claim up, in November 2011, Eurogamer interviewed Patrick Bach, and this is one of the lead game designers at DICE, and he had this to say: "This feels like day one now. It's exciting. The whole Frostbite 2 thing has opened up a big landscape ahead of us so we can do whatever we want." So it's obvious that him and DICE have big aspirations for Battlefield and for the game engine that they've created. You have to remember as well that Battlefield 3 is the first game on the Frostbite 2 engine. So now you would expect that they've had time to learn the engine, to refine it, and to really utilise its potential. So with Battlefield 3, there are bugs, it's not a perfect game, and there was obvious room for improvement in some aspects of the game. But hopefully, now that they've used the engine some more and gotten used to its nuances, they can really put out a good game that they want to put out, and they won't be limited by the engine at all. Okay, so let's talk about the release dates and how that sort of makes sense to me. So fall-winter 2013 is the rumour going around at the moment. So what are we expecting in 2013? New consoles. Analysts, games journalists, everyone is saying that we are most likely to get a new console from Sony and Microsoft in 2013. I think E3 next year will be absolutely huge for Sony and Microsoft, and I think they're both going to unveil their new consoles with release dates of Christmas 2013. I'm just going to put that out there now. I think they'll be released in December 2013 or January 2014. And that ties in really nicely with the rumoured release dates of Battlefield 4. And DICE have always said that the Frostbite 2 engine was built for the next generation of games consoles and PC hardware. Having Battlefield 4 as a launch title for one or both of these systems would be absolutely huge for DICE and Electronic Arts, especially if it's actually a good game. It just all sort of makes sense to me. But how does that benefit us, the customer, the gamer? Well, the way I see things, Battlefield 3 is a console game which has been ported to PC. That's not necessarily a completely bad thing, because I think Battlefield 3 on PC is a really good game. But because of the fact that the hardware in the Xbox 360 and the PS3 is so dated now, it meant that many of the features from Battlefield 2 that we expected to have in Battlefield 3 on PC were missing. They had to be stripped out and the game had to be slimmed down so it would work on the consoles. If DICE had decided to make a PC exclusive version of Battlefield 3, I'm sure it would have been very different. We could have had full destruction in all of the levels, bigger maps, more squad options, battle recorder, commander positions, even 128 players. PC hardware is so far ahead of the Xbox 360 and PS3 at the moment, and game development on the PC has suffered because of that. Developers and publishers primarily have to focus on console development to make money, and that's why so many PC games nowadays are console ports and have a lot of features removed from them. So why would new consoles be a good thing for Battlefield 4, not just on PC, but also on all of the new platforms? Well, it would mean that DICE could probably build a game that would work the same on all of the platforms. They could focus primarily on Battlefield 3 as a PC game, which is where it belongs. They wouldn't be scared to aim high with the PC version of the game, because they could be confident that all of the features would work on the new consoles, albeit with a controller instead of a mouse and keyboard. If DICE had new console hardware to work with, which I think they do, then we can expect more features, bigger levels, more players, and an overall better gaming experience that isn't dumbed down. Look at it this way, can you realistically see Battlefield 4 on current gen consoles in 17 months? It seems very improbable to me. You would expect the graphics and the scale to improve, everything to get bigger and more destructible, and now try and imagine that at 720p resolution running at 30 FPS. DICE said that they had a very hard time getting Battlefield 3 to run on the current consoles as it is, so I don't think they could really get anything more out of the 360 and the PS3 than what they currently are. So, my opinion, I think that the beta will be PC only initially, depending on whether or not the next gen consoles are released or not. I just can't see Battlefield 4 on an Xbox 360 or a PS3. Okay, so to wrap up my positive analysis of the Battlefield 4 announcement, BF4 has probably been in development for a long time. DICE have had plenty of time to develop their engine and find its limitations, so I think it's safe to say that we can expect them to push it to its maximum capability with Battlefield 4, especially with new consoles around the corner. DICE can look at the feedback the community has given them for BF3, fix all of the problems that that game had, and I'm hoping that Battlefield 4 will be the complete next-gen game that everyone expects it to be. It will have all of the features we want, it will have large and well-designed levels, it will have spectator mode, proper squad management, plenty of gameplay variety, and potentially support for esports matchmaking. At the end of the day, DICE are good at making Battlefield games. I have put so many hours into 1942, BF2, 2142, Bad Company 2, and now Battlefield 3. And all of these games have provided great experiences for me and my friends. They have kept us entertained and they leave us wanting more. Personally, I'm confident that Battlefield 4 will be a very good game. But sadly, it's not all butterflies and cupcakes, and we have to look at the negative aspects of this announcement. Although EA have been saying for years that Battlefield will become a bi-yearly title, is it still too soon? BF3 has only been out for 9 months, and there are still plenty of problems with the game and features which are broken and or missing. Battlelog is buggy and isn't as refined as it could be. The UI is bad, there will never be a battle recorder released, the squad system still isn't perfect, there are numerous glitches and exploits in the game. In the PC version of Battlefield 3 there still isn't a VoIP system, so unless you are playing with friends on Skype or TeamSpeak you have absolutely no way of directly communicating with other players aside from typing to them, which is hardly ideal in a fast-paced multiplayer game. Yes, there are expansions coming out for the game, and I'm sure there will be patches released which address weapon balancing and fix bugs in the game, but many people in the Battlefield community have lost hope that these features and bug fixes will definitely not come, as DICE now focuses their attention on Battlefield 4. Some members of the Battlefield community are already disappointed at this announcement, with many thinking that Battlefield is going down the COD direction, each new game a reskin of the last with a few new features, weapons and maps, but no true innovation involved, just a new title with a $70 price tag. Some people feel that EA have too much influence over DICE and are forcing them into a high pressure environment with tight deadlines and limiting their gameplay design choices just so they can get a new Battlefield product out in a timely manner. And what about Bad Company 3 or 2143? What's happened to those games? Have they been swept under the floorboards to make way for a yearly main Battlefield title? Many people would like to see a deviation in DICE's next game, but it looks like they're focusing on the core Battlefield audience for the near future, a choice which I'm sure will upset some fans of the Bad Company and 2142 series, which were more linear than classic Battlefield titles but still enjoyable in their own right. I'm sure some people will feel cheated out of their money too. As an example, if you're someone that has recently picked up Battlefield 3 and Premium, you probably ended up spending around £90 to £100 give or take, and now you've just found out that your game will be outdated within a year and a half or so. How do you feel about that? Some people might be okay with it and say, well, yeah, it's well worth the money, but I'm sure there's a large group of people out there who have recently purchased the game that will feel shortchanged after today's announcement. So, what do you guys think? How do you feel about the announcement today? Is this a good thing or a bad thing for the Battlefield series? Let me know in the comments. Do you think there is something I missed, or do you agree or disagree with something I've said? Then let me know. My personal opinion, I remain optimistic, and I think Battlefield 4 will be a chance for DICE to fix all of the problems that Battlefield 3 had, and more importantly to include all the features that should have been in a flagship Battlefield title. We still have 3 expansion packs coming out for Battlefield 3 and potential game features added via patches and updates, so there's plenty of life left in BF3 yet. I just hope that DICE are not being pressured with Battlefield 4 and they are allowed to do what they do best as a studio and continue to make large-scale multiplayer gaming that we all know and love. Ultimately, DICE will make the game that they want to make. We as a community have an opportunity to give them feedback and possibly influence their decisions, but you cannot forget that they are in the driving seat. I really believe that the release of next-gen consoles will help to expand the scope of Battlefield 4 for DICE. On the PC, we already have the next gen, so I'm hoping that DICE really concentrate on making Battlefield 4 a true PC game that can be easily ported to consoles instead of the other way around. In DICE we trust. Give me a rating if you enjoyed this video and subscribe if you like this sort of stuff, and I'll see you in the next one.